Talktainment Radio Worldwide South. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning, and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and we're all on the world's greatest radio. And you're in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am Mr. Bobby, and this is radio, the way it should be heard. Now, I don't have the light on. Is the light supposed to be on here, Brother Ed? Oh, okay, good. Okay. I don't want to see extra dark in the screen, but nevertheless, here we go. We are emanating live from Columbus, Ohio, and we are speaking live to, and will be speaking live with Mr. Neely Fuller, who is in Washington, D.C., and we are going to open our discussion up with the eighth area of people activity, which is called sex. Mr. Fuller has called it sex. If you want to get in contact with the show, there are a couple of ways, in fact, three, which you can do. One is you can go to facebook.com/talktainment. You can do that, where you can see and you can hear us live. Now, I have to do that 6 times for those who wanted to know. You can hear us live. You can also dial 1-877-932-9766, as somebody just did. So we'll try to get to that as quickly as we can. And also you can Gmail me at 7 Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com, and I will try to get to those. Now, if you Gmail me, those go into a question rotation, and whatever comes up are the ones that I will address. So some people think that they can just write in and then they want their question answered on today's program, and that may not necessarily be so. Hello to Kim Joshua Jones and Jolea Carter. Thank you. Yes, when you go to facebook.com/Talktainment, I can read some of the things that you're writing. I may not get to all of those. I will try, because this is trial and error. The show is not it is completely unrehearsed, so that's the way that it goes. Mr. Fuller is in Washington, D.C., and let me start off by saying good morning. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
And how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Very, very good. As we go into this particular program about sex, and we are going to, I anticipate that we're going to be on this for a number of weeks. We're going to go very slowly so that we can have an understanding. The thing I'd like to start off with, not with you, Mr. Fuller, but to our callers, is simply this, and listeners. Mr. Fuller has written, if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. And I love that statement, and I investigate that all the time, and I put that same thing to sex. Have you ever asked yourself, what is sex, what it is, and how does it work? Well, on this program, especially in the system of racism and white supremacy, we're going to address those. So don't be afraid to ask your questions or your concerns. We will do the best that we can. Thank you, Anthony Weeks. We thank you for that, for listening and writing in. Yes, I will call your name out. Mr. Fuller, you speak about the eighth area of sex in the system of white supremacy. What do you mean by that before we take our phone calls?
Well, if you're talking about the definition of the word, sex is between a male with a female person or creatures or whatnot, two creatures of the same species and whatnot, snails, bears, armadillos, whatever. But between people, sex, according to counter-racist logic, and I specify that, is a male with a female person. In any interaction. It can be sexual intercourse, or it can be just talking. That's sex, because it's a male talking to a female. These are specifics. You have male people. You do have some creatures moving around on the planet that are called males, and they have certain characteristics that are called male characteristics, and you have females that are called females with female characteristics, and then you can specify what those characteristics are. They have similarities, because all people have similarities, but males and females have very distinct similarities, so that you can categorize them as being dissimilar, you might say, because they are very distinctive. A male is not the same as a female, not exactly the same. They have certain characteristics that are somewhat similar. You know, a male person has a nose, ears, eyes, hands. Female has that too. But then there's a distinction there when it comes to what you might call genitalia. And females usually have a vagina, and the male has a phallus. And that's sex. That distinguishes the two sexual categories. Now, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists, and I say this is my own claim, according to what I've written and what I've been saying for long before it became popular to say it.
Yes.
Or you might say generalized to say it.
Yes.
And that is, I'm saying that the white supremacists are now trying to, and they are being, for the most part, very successful at what you call scramble sex, meaning, and they're directing it ultimately to non-white people, the non-white population of the entire planet.
Yes.
Because they have figured out scientifically that if they can scramble people, they can confuse people, because that's the key word here.
Yes.
See, their objective is to confuse people. If you can confuse people sexually, it's very easy to confuse them about everything else.
Yes. Okay.
And so they've gone into their laboratory, their racist laboratory, you might say, where they study how to handle people according to race.
Okay.
Something that they invented. The white supremacists presumably invented that. And they say, okay, what's the best way over a long term to really keep these people under our thumb? Well, we can use the hammer and the fist on them day to day, but that wears you out.
Yes.
And not only emboldens them,
yes,
it wakes them up. It keeps them alert. You don't want to do that. If you're going to handle people over a long period of time in the way that you want to do it without them even being concerned about what you're doing, you do it through deception.
Okay.
And what is the purpose of deception? To confuse. And because when you confuse people, and I make this analogy, if it's 10 people in a room and 9 of the people are confused, the one person who is not confused is in control of the other 9.
That is correct.
That's the concept.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
So in the area of sex, that's what the white supremacists aim to do over the long period, because they have figured out that's a way to do it. They can use economics, they can use education, they can use entertainment, but they have to keep making adjustments with that.
Yes, sir. Okay.
But with the area of sex, if they get that good and scrambled among the non-white people of the world, so that non-white people won't know the difference between a male and a female, nor will they care.
Mm-hmm.
Then they figure that it will be easy. They can just put their feet on the desk, you might say, and just leisurely pull all the strings and all the other areas of activity because they've got the people confused in one of the most powerful forces that people can have on the planet, and that is the area of sex.
Okay. Victor Porter says that Neely Fuller Jr. speaking the truth. Thank you, Victor Porter. And we also like to say thank you for the continuing support of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Bartholomew Washington from BW Gifts. I think he's in Houston, and I know he did write in with a question which we will address. And LaShawn King of Arlington, Virginia, would like to thank you also. And I would like to thank you for your continuing support of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And don't forget to purchase his book. Before we go in, let's take a phone call. What line are we on? Line 1? Okay. Line 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. My question is, if a white person and a non-white person are having sexual relations with each other, and the non-white person is being hurt by that in this system of white supremacy, does that automatically make the white person a white supremacist, whether they know it or not?
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes. Any white person that has sexual intercourse with a non-white person under the system of white supremacy, and I want to underline that. If there were no system of white supremacy, it would just be, you might say, male meets female, boy meets girl. I mean, to use a common expression. There's no problem there. But under the system of white supremacy, the non-white person is a prisoner of war. And the white person's position, you know, it wasn't their fault, so to speak. They were born into a system that's already in place, a prison system called the system of white supremacy, which is what it is. It's a prison system. All non-white people who come under the system of white supremacy are prisoners of war, because white supremacy itself is war, W-A-R. So, any white person who has sexual intercourse with one of the prisoners, and the white person is classified as the master class, which they are in the system of white supremacy, then that means it's like the warden having sexual intercourse with a prisoner. It doesn't make any difference about the emotions that are involved. I mean, to the people themselves, they'll say, well, hey, I love the person. I mean, I'm all out for the person, and I don't see what's wrong. I mean, what business is it of anybody? I mean, you know, love is a hard thing to get, and so you find it where you can. And so why are you saying that I'm racist? Because of your position, sir, because of your position, ma'am, if you're classified as white. This is a society. It's a world society. It's not just you and your individual taste. You're having an effect on what is going on, whether you are recognizing it or not.
Or not, yes. Okay. All righty. Line 2? Okay. Line 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, in terms of like the sexual things that it seems like the white supremacists are trying to do in terms of effeminate the males, of African American males and black, non-white males, is it possible that could backfire in Mr. Fuller's opinion?
Mr. Fuller?
If what now?
Is
Say
it
that
possible
again.
that their strategy could backfire? Meaning, I see a lot of effeminate and gay white males as well. I mean, I know, you introduced the concept of like sacrifice, like they have to, sometimes give up some things to subjugate us to things. But is it possible that could backfire on them and, like in a very negative way? It's very possible.
It's very possible, but not likely, because the white supremacists, the real thinking ones, they know limits. L-I-M-I-T-S. See, everything is about limits. like borders and whatnot. That's a limit.
Yes.
See, so the white supremacists always computers. They calculate, say, now, hey, this thing can backfire. You know, we can fool around and confuse ourselves. And what are we going to do about that? They'll say, well, we'll monitor it very closely, just like we monitor the number of black males that are going to be assigned to white females. We know how many is going to be before we even start down that road. We're not going to let this thing just go just any kind of way and hope that it works out. We are the greatest scientists that the world has ever seen. So when we start something, we know what the outcome is going to be. We don't do guessing like black people do. Black people have to guess about everything. We don't guess about nothing. Before we make a move of any kind, we know what the result is going to be. That's the difference between a white person and a black person in the system of white supremacy. It's not just the color. It's that black people live on what you call hope.
Hope, yeah.
And they live on guessing.
Mm-hmm.
They guess about everything. They're not sure of nothing.
Okay.
A white supremacist is always, without fail, sure of everything.
Everything. All right.
We don't make a move without being sure that it's going to work in our favor.
All right. TalkTimeAtRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here are a few shows that I'd like to share with you. How about this one? Senior Agenda is one. All in the Family is two. And This is Libby is three. Now, what makes these shows so unique is that they are exclusive to TalkTameItRadio.com. All you have to do is go to the TalkTameItRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and you are in. Hey, while you're there, hit that donate button too. Just because it's not donate season doesn't mean that we will not accept donations for this program. So hit that too. But that's what you do. Go to TalkTameItRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and it'll give you the list of times, and then you can tune in to whatever program that you'd like to. I'm sure there's something there that you'd like. That's from TalkTameItRadio.com radio. The way it should be heard, and it's being heard. Special hello to Mr. Larry Williams from Big Dallas. Yeah, I'm planning on being down there Thanksgiving, so yeah, Mr. Bobby may not be here, but yeah, my daughter invited me down there, so one of my daughters invited me down there, so I'll be down there. But anyway, let's do this. Let's go to the phone calls here. Line number one. Oh, no, two? Okay. Line number two. You are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, you say that white supremacy has 4 stages: the establishment stage, the maintenance stage, expansion, and refinement. Would you agree that you lived at the tail end of the expansion stage and the very beginning of the refinement stage?
Yes, they're always trying to stay in the refinement stage. What does refinement mean? It means you just put the finishing touches on it. It's like you already got a factory set up. So, naturally, the factory has machines that are running, so you just go around and refinement means you check your machines and see if they're running correctly, and you also do one other thing. You see if you can get the machines to run better and turn out a better product. And the white supremacists are that way, too. They come around and they check and say everything is in place in all 9 areas of activity. Economics, we got the black people under control when it comes to economics. Education, we got that under control. We got them confused. Their schools are a mess. We're going to keep them that way. Their entertainment is just as grotesque as anything you can get. I mean, it's not productive. It doesn't inspire them to do anything that makes sense. I mean, how they entertain themselves is just pure garbage. So we'll keep them on that track, pure garbage. That's good for them. I mean, and they'll worship that garbage because we got them in that frame of mind. And then labor, we got that under control, where they're going to work, how they're going to work, what pay they're going to get all over the world for the work that they do. And it's always going to be lower than it should be, all right? Politics, we'll let them participate in that and whatnot. but they'll just be going through motions because we'll have all the power anyway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then sex and war and all the rest of it, religion, whatnot. That is what they do. And that's the refinement. They go around and check and see. And then they'll say, how can we improve black people's confusion when it comes to religion? Say, well, maybe next year we can do this, we can do that, we can do the other. What about that, Will? You know? Yeah, well, we can try it. I mean, that might help. I mean, you know, because we already got the machines running. I mean, they're just as messed up as any people can possibly be. So we can, you know, we can go around and make it a little messier, you know. That's what refinement is. And we'll still have the power. I mean, you know, but since we got all this extra time, I mean, we'll just refine what we're doing. Just make it a little better.
Yeah.
I mean, more fun out of it.
Well, okay. All righty. Let's go to the Gmail. So this comes from Brother, and I'm hoping it's a Brother Dalamini from overseas. He says, Mr. Fuller, I have two questions. Number one, do humans have a mating season? And number two, Mr. Fuller, what are your thoughts on masturbation? Is it also sexual confusion, or have we been indoctrinated to believe that it is natural? I asked this, Mr. Fuller, because I masturbated because I saw white porn when I was young and began thinking of sex as the images I saw on these porn videos. I have grown and I see things differently now, but what I am seeing is a lot of black youth being exposed to pornographic materials. Mr. Fuller?
Sure. Right. Anything that the white supremacists do that they allow black people to do, the non-white people of the entire planet, it has a white supremacist motive. I don't care what it is. Pick any area of activity or any area, smaller area of any larger area of activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The white supremacists always have a white supremacist motive. Otherwise, they are not going to let black people even know about it.
Okay. What about mating?
The only time you see anything being spread among black people, I mean, you know, whatever the food is or whatever it is, they have a white supremacist motive. They don't do anything without a white supremacist motive. That's what a white supremacist is about.
Okay.
They don't have any other philosophy of existence.
Okay.
They have no other value system other than dominating and mistreating people of color.
Okay, then what about mating season, as the person asked?
What about what now?
Mating season. Do black folks have a mating season?
Oh, well, they're going to dominate that, too.
Okay, we got that, but
you have to dominate everything that people do. Because if you miss anything, if you're trying to dominate a people and you leave out one thing, that's like a piece of thread in some cloth that's loose. Everything is going to become unraveled.
Got that.
So the white supremacists always watch everything that black people do.
Got that.
If you show any signs of intelligence among black people, where you begin to think at another level, think on your own. This is even true during what you call plantation slavery. That thinking slave is a dangerous slave. The slave that's playing the banjo and turning flips and laughing loud and running around showing off all the time, you don't have to worry about him.
Okay.
He's an ideal slave.
Okay.
Because his mindset is very, very narrow.
Okay.
But that slave that's going around saying something is wrong.
All right.
I can't live like this.
Okay.
Something is wrong.
So
and that slave begins to think and begin to look over the master's shoulder and seeing what the master's reading. All right?
Got that.
See, I see the master always reading books. So I'm going and read those same books that the master's reading, and I'm going to find out what the master knows. Now, when the master recognizes that this slave is doing that, he gives him a good whipping and put him back in line, or he sells him down the river off on some other plantation owner.
Okay. So now, to be very clear so that none of us are confused, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, do black people have a mating season?
Oh, I I guess so. I mean,
okay.
That would be any time. Well, what is a mating season? A mating season is when you mate with another person. Now, what do you mean by mating? Do you mean just sexual intercourse that is just sexual intercourse, or is it sexual intercourse for the purpose of producing offspring?
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir. I see what you mean, but this was a question that came from the So he was asking,
by what is a mating season,
all right,
and what is it for?
All right.
Okay,
I got you. All right, this comes from brother in French, so-called French Guiana, said this, Mr. Fuller. Why do a lot of non-white people seem to have difficulty in blaming the white supremacists for every unjust act a non-white person does during the existence of the system of white supremacy?
Not understanding white supremacy. That's the direct answer.
Going back to the beginning. If you do not,
going back to the beginning. If you don't understand white supremacy, that they are running everything, it's not nothing that they're not running. You can't even name anything that they're not running. If you're a black person on this planet, name something, just one thing, that they don't have total control over.
Mm-hmm.
Economics. I don't care how pretty your money is somewhere on somewhere, and you decide to print some money and you're black. That money's got to be validated by the white supremacists. Otherwise, it is worthless. Now, is this true or false? That's what you always aim for. Always look for the truth, even when it hurts, because it hurts for a reason. When the truth hurts, it's to tell you that maybe there should be another truth, because truth is nothing but that which is. So truth is supposed to hurt when it's supposed to hurt, okay? So what black people have been trained to do is to avoid the truth, because it might hurt. We're real sensitive about feelings. In conversations, you hear black people talk about what? Not what they think or what they have calculated, but how they feel.
Okay.
Oh, I just don't feel like it. Well, they say, but the river's dried up. Well, I don't feel like the river needs to be dried up. Yes, sir, but the river has dried up. We're going to have to move from here and go somewhere where there is water, sir. But I just don't. I've been living here all my life, and the river ain't never dried up before, and so I just don't feel like the river ought to dry up. That's what you call Negro logic.
Okay, Negro logic. All right, let's go into the book here before we go to break here. On page 276, a question came up here, and here's the question. If a non-white lady desires to have sexual intercourse, with whom should she choose to do so? Mr. Fuller?
If a non-white lady does what?
Desires to have sexual intercourse, with whom should she choose to do so?
If the person is non-white, yes. And if the person is not of kin, blood kin and all like that, that's not functional. That brings about a lot of complications and whatnot. But she should, non-white, yes, because she doesn't have a boss. The non-white female does not have a boss. The non-white male is not the boss of a non-white female, or of any female, or of anybody. I mean, because he has a boss, and the boss is whomever the white supremacists are, by name, wherever they are. Every last one of them is his boss.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We're still going to get into the book, more of your questions, and more of your phone calls. All that and more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Queen's Legacy of Love 12 grand launch and grand opening. Currently looking for hosts, photographers, models, dancers, entertainers, ushers, comedians, production managers, model coordinators, stage crew, vendors, volunteers, sponsors, public relations and media personnel, and extras. Contact ggoldqqueen22@yahoo.com.
Queens of Queens.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin' online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin' products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin' candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin' online at www.ashkickin.com.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Think fast. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can become a big fire. Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov because fire is everyone's fight.
Do you have problems controlling high blood pressure? Good news. You can enroll in Helping Hands Health and Wellness Center's health coaching program utilizing the innovative Twine Health platform. We will help you set your goals, keep in touch with you via your cell phone, and may provide you a free blood pressure cuff. Call us at 614-462-0114 or visit us on the web at www.helpinghandsfreeclinic.org to see if you qualify. This program is provided to you by a grant from the CVS Health Foundation.
See that cute little dog in the pet store? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppies to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. Visit bestfriends.org/puppy mills to learn more.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Every year, June marks the beginning of 2 busy seasons, summer and wedding season. If you are legally changing your name, you need to apply for a replacement Social Security card reflecting your new name. This is easier to fix now when you first change your name than years from now when you retire. So go to our website at www.socialsecurity.gov/SS number or call us at 1-800-772-1213, TTY 1-800-325-0778 to find out what specific documents you need to change your name and apply for a replacement card.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimidRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Okay, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Hi, I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, who is on the line live from Washington, D.C. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, there are at least 3 ways you can do that. First of all, go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. That way you can see and you can hear us. You can hit the like button. You can even leave a message on there, and I will read it across the screen like I had with Victor Porter and Mr. Larry Williams from Dallas. It's on my screen right there. You can also dial 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. If you do take that route, chances are I probably will not get to it today, but I will get to it because it does go into question rotation. But anyway, the main thing, Facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can see and you can hear us. We are discussing the 8th area of people activity, Mr. Fuller is, which is the area of sex. We are going to go to page 277 in the revised expanded edition, which Mr. Fuller will speak about in a few moments. At the very top of the page, Mr. Fuller, you wrote this on page 277 of the revised expanded edition. You said, in everyday communication, always refer to the non-white females as, quote, females, end of quote, or as, quote, ladies, end of quote. Do not refer to them as women. Can you explain that, please?
Do not refer to them as women.
Yeah, that's what you wrote.
Do not refer to them as women. Refer to non-white females as females or as ladies. In other words, if you are talking about a non-white female in the system of white supremacy, you will refer to her as a non-white female because she is a person who is non-white and who is also female. Or you can refer to her, and this is preferably, regardless of age, as lady. Young lady, you want to say that, want to modify it some, young lady, if you choose to do that, and that's acceptable to the person you're talking to. But lady is something that should be used as a matter of what? Courtesy. Because you always try to be courteous to people. But they are not women. See, women, of one thing, have status other than prisoners of war. All right? All non-white females are prisoners of war. So as prisoners of race war, as prisoners of the system of white supremacy, the only people who qualify for the title of women are white women. Now, you can call them ladies, too, or females, but when you're talking about women, you're talking about white women. Why? Because black females can be ladies, or naturally they're females. They can be ladies out of a matter of courtesy, but they're in the status of what? Not of women. They're in the status of what? Girls. That's why every now and then a white person, when they're talking to black females, they'll say, well, you girls. And sometimes a black female will say, I'm not a girl, I'm a woman. Well, then the white person, if they're being polite and whatnot, they will make that adjustment, say, well, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I mean, I didn't think that you would be offended and whatnot. But actually, that's an accurate description. Just like black males are not men. There's no such thing as a black male being a man. I don't care how old he is or what he knows or what his so-called position is in the system of white supremacy. You manhood, sir, when the white supremacists became supreme over you. They made you into a what? or kept you in the status of what? A boy. And even if you were a man before then, you lost your manhood once you became subject to a people who had the intention of doing nothing but dominating and mistreating you. All right, so you have the status of a boy. In the same way with a black female, non-white female, she has the status of a girl. So we are functionally boys and girls as prisoners of war of the system of white supremacy. I hear a lot of beeping going on.
Yeah, there's some beeping going on. Okay. What line are we on there? Line number 1? Okay, line number 1. You're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question? Hello? Okay. All righty. Okay. I'll call back.
I hope I made that clear.
Well, only the callers could answer that, Mr. Fuller. Okay, let's go to this question here. Again on page 277. You said, within the system of white supremacy, racism, what are the 4 correct titles that should be used to describe a white female? And what are they, Mr. Fuller?
Let's see. Now that's where now?
Page 2.
Oh, yes, right. 277. Within the system of white supremacy, what are the 4 correct titles that should be used to describe a white female? Answer. White female. That's number 1. Number 2, lady or white lady. Number 3, woman or white woman. Number 4, racist suspect female, but only if there is reason to believe that the white female is very likely functioning as a white supremacist. But now, you can say to a person, if it's a white woman in the system of white supremacy, if you think that she's a racist suspect, you can say so. And should say so under certain conditions. Depends on the circumstances and whatnot. Because of one basic counter-racist law. Any white person who is able to be a white supremacist in the system of white supremacy probably is one. But you can't say that they're one because you have no way of proving it.
Unless they say it?
You can say that you suspect. See that word suspect?
Yes.
Put that in front of it. I suspect, Miss Graham, I suspect you could be a racist. Are you calling me a racist? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm not calling you a racist. But I suspect you could be one. Well, why should you suspect that I'm a racist? You know, what is it about me that makes you suspect that I'm a racist? What have I done? And you say, well, you may or may not have done anything, but you're in the system of white supremacy, ma'am, and somebody has to be a racist. And since I don't have a master list of who is and who is not a racist, and you are able to be a racist because you're classified as white, you just could be one. It's not personal, ma'am. Miss Graham, it's not personal. It's business.
Okay. You asked a question before we did that. Is it clear to me concerning in everyday communication always refer to non-white females as females or as ladies? Do not refer to them as women. And then you asked before we went to that little break, is it clear? Well, one of our listeners, Jola Carter, said, Mr. Fuller, it's clear to me. That's what she said.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
sometimes I try to explain things, you know, by giving illustrations and all like that.
Yeah.
And I don't do it in a way that it becomes clear to everybody.
Okay.
And that's a no-no. In counter-racist science, you have to be clear.
Yes, sir.
I grade myself not on what I'm saying so much, the essence of what I'm saying. I grade myself on 2 things, focus and clarity. Did I keep focus on what the subject is, and was I clear when I start talking about it? Otherwise, all I'm doing is adding to what? Confusion.
Okay.
And confusion in counter-racist science is an absolute no-no.
Absolute no-no.
Nobody's ever supposed to be confused.
Okay. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. So all you have to do is download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concepts with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and you are welcome to get in contact with the show by going to Facebook.com/Talktainment. That way you can see, you can hear us. There's a like button there. You can do that. And you can also hit, leave a comment if you want to, as Jola Carter just did. And, oh, thank you, Jola. He said, by the way, I'm a male. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Carter. Okay. And, Brother Williams down in Dallas, Texas, thank you. But right now, what we would like to do is, we take this time out about a quarter till the hour, Mr. Fuller, to have you for a brief moment discuss your book.
Yes. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook, which it's called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And the complementary or the supplementary title or the equal title is a Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. And then there's a third title, a supplementary title, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. And racism is white supremacy, and white supremacy is racism. That's the analysis anyway. That's the conclusion that the author has come to.
Yes.
And based on logic. And you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And the book is directed to individual persons. That's individual persons. The individual person, non-white person, who perceives him or herself to be a victim of racism. If you don't perceive yourself as being a victim of racism, if racism doesn't affect you, or never will, or never has, or anybody that you know and all like that, and you're not involved with that, you have other things to be involved with, other things are more important to you, then the book is not for you.
Okay.
The book is for people who perceive racism as being a very, very effective thing in their entire existence, or it's not. But you can pick out the things that would apply to you as an individual. Not all things apply to all people in certain circumstances.
Okay. All right, so producejustice.com.
Producejustice.com.
Okay.
Go to that.
All right. Let's go.
Producejustice.com.
Okay. We are going to go to the phone lines. Line number 3, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. This is Ray checking in from Concept, Dallas, Texas, and I have 2 questions if time permits. Number 1, why were the 10 basic stops that were in the original 1984 version moved to politics in the revised expanded edition?
Oh, because everything is politics. Everything. And I could have put it anywhere. But politics, because it has to do with people, all right? Politics is nothing but one person relating to another. And that would include everything in all of the areas of activity. I could put it anywhere. But I thought that would be a feasible place to put it. I had it in the introduction section before. And also, I had it in other places before. Why? Because it'll fit any place. It's all political. Anytime you're talking to a person, like right this minute, we are engaged in politics. What is politics? One person communicating with another. That's all. 2 people sitting, riding a bus and talking to each other about the weather. That's political. Sometimes people say, well, you can't mix politics with religion, for example. Well, wait a minute. Does a religion involve people? That's the question. See, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So when someone makes that kind of statement, well, you don't mix religion with politics. You say, well, wait a minute, what is religion? Let's get that straight first, since that's the first thing you mentioned. And then, what is politics? Now, politics is interaction between people. Does a religion have any kind of interaction between people? Every religion I ever heard of calls for interaction between people. The religion itself. They say, well, yeah and no. Well, wait a minute. Yes or no? See, because under the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists are real good at that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, yes, and maybe no, maybe so.
That's confusing.
And they bounce all over the place. Why? Because that makes confusion.
Yeah, confusion. All right.
No, the whole thing in counter-racist science is you nail everything down solid.
Okay. What's your second question?
Which means you pay attention to every word.
Okay. What's your second question, sir?
Yes, sir. Over the years, you've stated how when you first came out with the code, you had a gentleman, for instance, tell you that there was nothing in the book that he could use. And I was wondering if, like him and other people, have there been people over the years that came back and wanted to take another look at the book, perhaps because they perceive racism to be an issue for them?
Good question.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I expect that. That's why you don't try to preach counter-racism to anybody. You don't even try to teach it. You just tell it. Person asks you a question, you give them an answer based on what? Logic.
Logic. Yeah.
See, don't turn loose to the logic. Cause and effect. So I've had many people come up to me and say, oh, Fuller, you ain't talking about nothing. I mean, you're talking all that stuff, man. I mean, I've heard that kind of stuff from other people. I ain't got time for it. And then 6 months later, he come up and says, the same person, and this has happened, and I expect it to happen. Hey, Fuller, I want to talk to you. Man, these people, I say, wait a minute, what people? These white folks, man, they messing with me. Okay, all right, well, let's hear it. Okay. And then I don't remind them that they said they didn't ever want to talk about it because I expect this.
Okay.
People don't want to talk about anything until they have to talk about it.
Okay.
All right? That's the way people are. So you already take that for granted. That shouldn't ever bother you.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that call me and tell me that, Fuller, when I'm talking about your code to people on the job and all like that, I say, first of all, don't do that. Wait for them to come to you and ask you some questions. Now, because when people ask questions, they are ready for the answers, even if they may not agree with the answers. I said, but when they come to you with a question, that means that something is bothering them. That's the way it is.
Okay.
That's the logic. Follow that.
Follow the logic.
Don't ever try to go around preaching anything to anybody.
Okay.
Wait until they say they have a problem, and then you address that problem that they say they have. That's it.
All righty. From the Gmails, this comes from JL. She says, good morning, Mr. Fuller. Halloween is next month, and I have noticed in the last few years that suspected racists like to paint their faces black, wear Afro wigs, and post it on social media. Some of these suspected racists have actually lost their jobs because of the obvious negative reaction. My question is, why do they do it? What do they get out of it? Just curious. This is JL in New York.
Well, look at the colors of Halloween. Now that you mention it, see, pay attention to things. The colors that go with Halloween are usually what? Black and orange.
Yes, sir.
And what is Halloween about? Something grotesque, witches, something evil going on here, all right? Now, black and orange, when you think about it, in the modern days, are associated. Black has always been associated with something evil in the white supremacist culture. Anything dark or anything black is associated with evil, with something foreboding, with something non-constructive, all right? And orange in the modern days associated with what? Prison uniforms. So, so the white supremacists would more or less say Halloween is really for you black people. You're black, and you should be in an orange suit. I mean, because that's what we got planned for you. We don't have any other plans. You're black, you're going into an orange suit.
I can
and
see
you're going behind bars.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me something about, celebrating Halloween, don't do it. Why? Because what are you celebrating? You're celebrating something that's supposed to be scary. You don't need to bring up anything that's scary. Hurricanes are scary.
Ooh, yeah.
All right? Floods are scary. You got plenty of things that are scary on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to kind of halfway like what you call scary movies. You go to a movie in order to get scared. No.
Okay.
I look at a movie in order to learn something constructive. I'm not looking for anything to make me scared of anything.
Right on, Mr. Fuller. Okay. From the Facebook, for the Facebook.com /Talk Line. Mr. Larry Williams wrote this. Mr. Fuller, in computer science, they teach us computer logic. Is human logic different?
Oh, all logic is logic. Logic is nothing but cause and effect. In other words, fire will burn, water is wet. Fire is not the same as water. That's logic. So logic is universal. That's what we need to tap into. Regardless of the propaganda, which the white supremacists, they throw all kinds of things out here and say, oh, this is very logical. But when you look at it, you say, no, there's nothing logical about that. I mean, you're talking about, having a good time. You say, well, what does it take to have a good time? All right, you're off from work now, you're going to have a, quote, good time. So the white supremacists will say, well, you're off from work now, you got a little bit of money, you just got paid, and you want to have a, quote, unquote, good time. So you go right down the street from the factory where you work, and what do you have? A liquor store. So you go in the liquor store, and you buy something in a bottle, and you drink what is in that bottle, and you are now having what? A good time. That's according to white supremacist logic that they put off on black people. And black people bought into it. All right? Now it's all kinds of stuff. I mean, not just liquor, but all kinds of poisons they got out here. Okay? But they will put it under the label of what? Having a good time. So you got to look beyond the labels and see, wait a minute, is this logical? I mean, I'm dead drunk, lying in the gutter. Now I'm going to get picked up and taken into rehab or something, or arrested or whatnot for disturbing the peace or whatnot, or it might even make me fight somebody. Now I got a criminal charge against me. I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have been half drunk, all right? So is that a good time? I mean, well, the white supremacists said that it was. Well, that's a bunch of nonsense. I'm not doing this on Christmas or any other time, no more, period. I'm not going to a party where they have this kind of so-called good time. I mean, what is a good time? What's good about it? I mean, does anything constructive come out of it? No. See, start doing some thinking for yourself, folks. Start doing some thinking for yourself, using logic that the Creator put here to be used. And stop buying into everything that the white supremacists keep dumping on us as non-white people. They dump stuff on us all day long. Don't give us a chance to even breathe. Here comes another truckload of garbage that they're going to dump on us again. And we just grab hold to it. I mean,
all righty. Well, you know what? When you hear that music, you know what that means. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.